Hi guys, Dina here again. This is the final video on the Iron Maiden latest reissue series. So covering the last two albums, basically Somewhere in Time and Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. So let's crack on with it. First of all though, the last time I did one of the videos for the second batch, hadn't listened to the Live After Death album. So I have now listened to that completely and can confirm that sounds as good, if not slightly better than the original. I think there just seems to be a bit more oomph to it, a bit more bounce to it. Again, it's a cracking album. I mean, as I've gone before, the whole package and everything is superb, down to the reproduction of the inner tour booklet. So that's great. So yeah, but sound quality wise, I mean, as I mentioned before, this was my first introduction to Iron Maiden via the long form video. But yeah, I mean, loved it. It's over 2 discs. It just sounds great. So it probably still is one of my favourite all-time live albums ever. I think it really, as does the video, really captures the performance, and I think Iron Maiden were at the peak. Probably this point live as well in their career. So yeah, fantastic. So if you love the original, you need a new copy, go out and buy it. It's nicely priced, fantastically packaged, sounds great. That's all I'll say on the matter. So let's get cracking down to the next one then. So next in the series, Somewhere in Time. And again, fantastically packaged, lovely glossy covers, exactly the same packaging as the originals had. So again, on Somewhere in Time, we were talking picture in the sleeves, lyrics on the back, and the lovely space age photo on there. And again, put it into my own sort of polyliner, custom labels, both sides. So, you know, as far as the packaging goes, once again, exactly duplicated the original. I've listened to this in its entirety, and to be honest, it's as good as the original. I mean, it suffers from the same issue as all the other in the series, that it needs cranking up volume wise, which the originals don't. Still don't understand why that is. Something to do with the way they were mastered, pressed, I don't know. But crank up the volume and it's fine. Nice, clean sounding vinyl, as per all the others. But yeah, so as far as sound quality goes, it's great. As far as the album goes, Somewhere in Time it's a bit of a weird one for me with Maiden. It sort of sits, it's not... I think it's mainly because of Bruce's lack of involvement, really. I mean, it's been well documented that it came off the Power Slave Live After Death tour, which is about 13 months long. And when they went into the studio, Bruce said that he felt that the band should almost go off on a bit of a tangent and do an acoustic album. This was before the days of sort of Unplugged and, you know, everybody doing acoustic albums basically. And Steve Harris had been pretty much shot him down in flames. So he said, no, we're not going to do an acoustic album. That's not Iron Maiden. You know, deal with it type thing. And he dealt with it by basically not being in the studio and not contributing a single writing credit to the album. And I think that shows. I mean, it's strangely enough, I think Steve Harris probably thought maybe a commercial aspect to Bruce wanted to go acoustic. I think Bruce felt that, you know, the band were at that point, the British band in their career, that they could effectively jump up to the next ladder, be as big as Led Zeppelin, I think he actually said at the time. But, you know, just showed a different sort of side to the, you know, the musically what they're all about. A lot of fans out, or a lot of music fans outside of the Iron Maiden community don't particularly see the breadth and depth that they have musically. They get a slight taste on the singles if they ever get any airplay. Over here in the UK, it's very rare that Iron Maiden get played at all on the radio. Even when we had, they had the #1 single. I think it was on the C playlist, so it didn't even reach the A playlist on a lot of the radio stations, the Radio 1 over here. I'd imagine it's pretty similar in the States as well. But So yeah, so Bruce had very little involvement. Adrian Smith stepped up and sort of wrote a few tracks, so there's that sort of commercial sort of tinge to them. There's a lot of synth work going on with this as well, which sort of lends itself to the album theme, I suppose. But still some great tracks on here. In Stranger in a Strange Land, Wasted Years were the two singles. They're both fantastic. But I really like Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner. I think it was a Steve Harris song, but it's a strong album. It's just not the usual Maiden fare, and I think the lack of Bruce's input on this, it sort of shines really on this one. I think with his input it would have been great. Also to say, I mean, the sleeve, fantastic for Maiden fans. This was, heaven. Just going through, looking at all the different things on here, all the little hidden messages. Got the Ruskin Arms, famous for one of the early gigs. Got the Power Slave Pyramid. So there's lots of hidden things in there. Maggie's Revenge and all that sort of stuff. So I used to, as a kid, I used to spend literally hours just looking through. Oh, I found this. There's Batman there. Great. So really fantastic cover artwork. In the true tradition of cover artwork, something to look at and read when you're listening to the album. Sadly, those days are gone, but yeah, fantastic. So that's Somewhere in Time. Again, recommended. Buy it if you need a new copy. So the next one, and the last one in the series, sadly, is Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. But again, same as the others, lovely glossy cover. Yeah, I mean, this is never quite understood why, but both Somewhere in Time and Seventh Son sort of lend themselves to gatefold covers because they follow on through, which obviously on the picture disc series they did. Not quite sure why they never did initially, and possibly why they never did on this series, but hey ho. So you've got the picture in it, which that I think is one of my all-time favourite pieces of artwork by Derek Riggs. The lyric on the back. I just love that. That's such a great piece of artwork, and that pretty much sums up the album as well. I mentioned this in my first video, I think, to my introduction to the VC. Probably still is my favourite Iron Maiden album. It was their first and only, only concept album, and it's just really got some great tracks on here. Bruce had obviously toured with them on the Somewhere in Time album, obviously. Come back into the writing studio, and I think he really came back with a strong sense of, right, okay, we've got over the previous album, let's try and do something different. And I think it started out, I can't remember if they said that they wrote Moonchild first, but it starts with an acoustic intro, ends with an acoustic intro. There's a use of keyboards on this one, which is the first time they'd use that, more for atmospherics than anything else, just give the tracks a bit of meat. But obviously it's a concept album, so it's about the seventh son of the seventh son, so pretty much from the birth to his death, basically. But yeah, some killer tracks on here, and there's a few collaborations with Bruce, Adrian and Steve as well. So the songwriting as well is really, really strong on this. The one thing for me that sort of stood out when I first listened to it was the guitar playing between Adrian and Dave. Fantastic, great harmony, lines on there. Just, it's almost like they're having guitar battles, but it just like flows really, really well. And Nico's drumming on this as well is superb. So, I mean, that's why it's such a strong album. I mean, for me, it's really, if you've never listened to Iron Maiden before, I would recommend going straight into Seventh Son. It's such a cracking album, and it's sort of easy as you're in as well. It gives you a flavour of what they've did previously, from the first album all the way through to Seventh Son. And it also gives you a flavour from what's coming from them. It's progressive in places, but not overly progressive. It's certainly not anywhere near as much as what they've sort of done at Matter of Life and Death, and to a certain extent Final Frontier. But you can see where they're heading with that album, and they've stuck to the guns. the vinyl. Obviously you've got the custom label, again that artwork, that's awesome, and on the back there as well. Yeah, it's such an awesome album. I really love it, and I say it's still my favourite to this day. I'm so glad that so Bruce really shone through. I mean, Bruce's vocals on this, absolutely stunning. I mean, I could wax lyrical about this all day long. It's really, really strong album. Yeah, and I can't recommend it highly enough. It is there. Sound quality wise, it's, again, from all the other albums that I've mentioned in this series, you need to crank the volume up, otherwise the vinyl is nice and quiet. It's great, it sounds great. It's definitely from the original master. It's not that horrible enhanced CD issue that they did a few years back, where Nico's cymbals were just really, really high in the mix, and it's almost unlistenable, that version. I just don't know what somebody was thinking on that one. But this, thankfully, is cut from the original master. It's the same mix as the original vinyl version that I've got. And I'd say it's on par. It's not an improvement, it's not a detraction from the original. It's just a really good, nice, clean copy of what you probably had before. So yeah, so that's it then for the Iron Maiden reissues. I've got to go through the singles. I didn't realise I hadn't done the second batch, so I'll do those next. But yeah, great stuff. So thanks again for watching. See you again soon.